Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining another one of our awesome summit talks. We're so happy to have you today. We have a great speaker today that I think will lend a lot of really good common sense around your health. All right, you guys should be seeing my screen. So we're going to talk about when workplace wellness works, cultivating a culture through mindful leaders. And our talk today is by Lindsay Johnson. I'm going to do a brief intro to her in just a moment. The first thing I wanted to just highlight is a couple of our sponsors. The Whitmarsh Consulting Group, David Whitmarsh, CEO, has been a partner of Turnkey for years. He's our marketing arm and really helps us and has helped us to put on this summit of over 60 talks now. So we have been very busy and happy to have David to help us. Our additional sponsor is Insperity. I'm sure most of you have heard of Insperity. They're a huge HR company that outsources HR. They have every trick in the book. As being part of this summit today, you will actually or you can sign up for a free financial analysis report and debrief. We think it's amazing that they're giving these away because they're very helpful to gain insight about the real cost burden of being an employer, identifying some of the costs associated with the life cycle of your employees. So feel free to reach out at the turnkeycoachingsolutions.net HR report, and they will actually run this for you all for free, just because you joined us today. So feel free to do that. Keep in mind this presentation actually will be shared. It's recorded, so everybody will have an opportunity to take notes, get the slides, etc. as we move forward. The other thing I want to highlight, something new that Turnkey is doing, is we actually have a career transition and employee outplacement service that we are launching that has a variety of different packages to meet every company's need. We're really excited about this, everything from helping people to write their resumes, helping strategically companies to put an outplacement program in place, writing resumes, doing interviewing, etc. So feel free to holler at us if you're in need of that type of service. Again, welcome to our summit. Like I said, we have 40 on the slide, but I think we've done about 60 different webinars. We've got to meet some really great people. We've got to also present some really good information in this crisis that everybody's going through. So we're doing that through June, so feel free to keep joining us. We are very excited about this. My name is Wendy Carrick. I'm actually filling in for Anissa Avon, our CEO today, and I will be your host. I am the VP of People here at Turnkey, and I have the pleasure of hiring and working with all of our coaches and our trainers and making sure we have the right people in the right spots. And today I have the pleasure of hosting this wonderful webinar with Lindsay, Lindsay is a former marketing director, and I'm not going to steal her thunder because she's going to give the whole story, but Lindsay is I'm going to call her a fitness expert because she really understands what it means to be healthy, and she started this wonderful company about how to do that in a corporate environment. I'll let her tell you a little bit more about that, and then she's got some awesome tips for us today that we can actually use. So Lindsay, I'm going to stop sharing and let you start sharing.
All right, let's see, here we go. Make sure I grab the right one here. Sharing. Perfect. Can you guys see my presentation?
Yes.
All right, cool. Thank you so much for that introduction. And I have to humbly say, I'm a student for life. So I appreciate the fitness expert, and I like to say that I am as well, but always learning. And so I think that's what we're here for today. A few housekeeping tips. If you leave today and maybe aren't getting everything out of it that you really hope for, please, please, please email me, because culture, leadership, DEI are such vast topics that I won't be able to dive into everything. So, but you guys are definitely gonna walk away with some great tips. And another thing, besides being able to wear my yoga pants right now, the other thing that I really love about these virtual sessions compared to the in-person is that you're able to have conversations with each other while the speaker is chatting. And so I highly, highly welcome you and encourage the conversations in the chat box. So please, please, please keep those going. So because I'm going to share my story with you in just a little bit, I'm going to leave up my credential slide here while I go over an overview of what we'll talk about today. As social animals, our DNA composition demands social contact. According to the US National Library of Medicine, the need to belong is described as a primary human motivation. Social contact is so crucial that our ability to meet this need carries such significant ramifications for our health and well-being. As leaders, your job, our job, has been put to the ultimate test this year. Wow, 2020. And just as we thought physical distancing has lightened up, the world woke up these past few weeks to realize that as a society, we could be doing more. We could be doing more to treat each other as equals. Doing so should be a foundational piece of your company's culture, and we will talk about that today. I, for one, am exceptionally grateful for this movement. It has given me the opportunity to reflect on how I will not only lead my company to be better, but I will ensure that my words are compassionate and that my actions are intentionally inclusive for all. My hope is that you will leave today with action items on how to ingrain this mentality of inclusion and belonging in your company and in society. So here's a little overview of what we'll cover. We'll talk about feeling part of a community, creating a culture of well-being and belonging. We'll play some activities for you to take back and learn about your team. We'll talk about how to incorporate social engagement into your culture and not in a hokey, cheesy way. You can do this both virtually and then when you are back in the office, knocking on wood. We'll talk about some case studies of some really cool companies doing great stuff to support their employees. And lastly, we will cover what does it mean to be an agent of change and how do you find those people within your workplace. So I'm going to put up my token stat slide here, and this stuff is so relevant, and we'll talk about some more throughout. So here we go. So research shows that loneliness and social isolation are harmful to our health. Duh. Well, if you didn't know, the mortality rate for lacking social connection has been compared to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And loneliness increases the likelihood of mortality by 26%. That's scary. In a 2019 Cigna workforce study, it found that 63% of males were lonely versus 58% of women. This next point, social media was tied to loneliness as well. 73% of heavy social media users are considered lonely compared to 52% of light users. Well, it might come as a surprise to some because it's such a habit to turn to our phone for that, for that social media connection. Well, research is showing that that's not true connection. Next point here, with the COVID-19 mortality rate for Black Americans being 2.4 times as high compared to the whites, it's not surprising that 46% of Black Americans are likely to experience social isolation compared to 34% of their white peers in the same study. Next, we've got, in a very recent Gallup poll, employees were told to answer and consider how the impact of COVID-19 has impacted their complete well-being, and they were asked if they felt that their employer cared about their well-being. Only 45% agreed that their organization cares. The pandemic has thrown us all through a loop, but even after a couple months of working from home and sheltering in place, employees are still not feeling that adequate support. It could be so many situations, but maybe HR leaders aren't sure what to do or how to turn everything virtual. It's so confusing. So we're all in it together. And we'll talk about some ideas later today. Either scenario, it really is our job as leaders to be there for them and to listen to them. So now that we've talked about and hopefully I've impressed you with some of this research, I'll share my background, which led me to starting a global wellness company, and why I'm qualified to speak on this topic of creating a culture of belonging through mindful leaders. So this is me getting pretty personal and vulnerable here. But in my single parent Midwest raised household, SpaghettiOs and hamburger helper were a staple. The Happy Meal was a balanced dinner with ketchup being the nutrient-rich vegetable. It's hard to see the scowl on my face, but if you look up at that top picture, I'm the girl with her arms crossed. If you can't tell, I'm pretty upset because that boy who's looking up at me said, and I remember this to this day, he said, "You're too fat to get on my back."
Oh, that's the worst.
I know. I mean, talk about just someone that always wanted to fit in. And, you know, from a young age, I was just starving. I was starving for attention. I wanted everyone to like me. I wanted to belong. And you'll see in the second photo, which is so funny that someone grabbed it. But I thought that hanging out with the judgy, cool girl would make me feel part of the group. But what I didn't realize is that I was unhappy with myself. And so this mentality stuck with me for over a decade when I worked in the corporate world rat race. And like so many people, I'd eat lunch over my keyboard. And then after a long day of work, I had no motivation to work out. So instead, that easy access happy hours, they fed my unhealthy behaviors. In 2013, it took a life-changing meltdown, literally, to finally realize that to truly belong with other people, I had to know myself first. I was mentally unhealthy. I was about 40 pounds heavier than I am today. And it was then that I made a commitment to myself that I would stop drinking alcohol. I would leave the corporate world to become a personal trainer and a certified health coach. And then 6 months after that, I found myself in India for yoga teacher training. And I spent about 6 weeks over there where I learned how to mindfully feel and appreciate every part of my being. I had to learn how to appreciate this body that I spent so many years shaming, and this mind that the chatter and the self-talk was just so mean. And again, student for life, I'm still going through that. So nobody's perfect, and it's a practice.
Gosh, Lindsay, I so appreciate you saying all that, because I think all of us, I know certainly I do, I go through the same thing even now at 55 years old. I constantly have to learn to close that chatter so that I can move forward. And this craving to belong is key, you know, because we all want to, but we try to belong where we don't belong because we're not okay with ourselves. So I appreciate your vulnerability and for sharing that story, because I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because and perhaps there's someone on the line today that might be saying, "Girl, you got some personal issues."
We all do.
That's exactly it. Your employees do too. Your employees do as well. These are human issues that, with your compassion and the proper tools in their work environment, they will be more productive and they will bring more revenue to your bottom line. So let's fast forward to 2015, when I was asked to teach a yoga class within a company. It was then that I became inspired on how this employer not only paid for their staff to take a class, they encouraged them to stop working for at least an hour each day. Right? That was so foreign to me, having worked for an advertising agency that we were just talking about this, 7 a.m. I mean, most days I had to be in the office till long after 7 p.m. And to go for a walk during the middle of the day, I would get these dirty looks, and it was so foreign to me. So it was then that a flame was ignited, and I knew there was something to this. I thought, how can I help people avoid falling into the darkness of mental and physical agony that I felt? So it came one day after a lot of work, but I thought by bringing well-being resources to people where they're spending a good majority of their time in the workplace, and that is where FitPros began. I wanted to start a company that allows people to learn tools that make them physically and emotionally strong, socially connected, financially confident, and find professional purpose. That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot.
That's a big order. That is a big order.
And we do our best to help companies build out these robust programs, along with great partnerships, such as companies like Turnkey. In 2016, FitPros was born, and we are a health and fitness company that brings wellness directly to your workforce. So either on-site or virtually. Admittedly, prior to COVID, we were 98% on-site. Mm-hmm. We have since become completely virtual, and it's been a really exciting shift of our company, now delivering care packages as well. But we support many of the world's leading companies with their wellness initiatives. Our approach is to be your wellness consultant, to create custom solutions that will improve your employees' health, happiness, and commitment to your company. And today we have over 30 wellness offerings and a footprint in 52 US markets and 6 countries, and we're growing.
Awesome.
So very exciting. Very exciting. Our intention is to be more than just a vendor. We partner with corporations to enhance their workplace culture and make it easy and accessible for employees to make these mindful choices and adopt healthy lifestyle habits that they can truly ingrain in their home and work productivity. So in turn, we help companies recruit and retain top talent that produces a more happy and productive workforce. So now that you know where I spend my life's passion day in and day out, let's go ahead and we'll dive deep into some tactics and tools here. All right. So loneliness is so much more than a bad feeling. It has profound consequences on our health. Psychology today describes loneliness as a social pain, a psychological mechanism which motivates individuals to seek social connections. It is an unpleasant emotional response to perceived isolation. It's also a subjective emotion. You can be surrounded by so many people, yet still feel alone. Mm-hmm. And data illustrates that when we feel part of a community with a cause, we personally feel a greater sense of purpose. In turn, we're eager to put in the work and be more productive. When we are deeply connected to other people, we are able to listen and be more receptive to their ideas and contributions. Let's take, for example, a holiday. So when you're with your close family and friends and you're getting together and chatting and laughing, even if you have completely different points of views, politics, religion, whatever that might be, you might get annoyed with their opinion. It's still very likely that no matter what the situation, if you're in trouble, they're going to help you out, and vice versa. So it's just proof that you're more able to listen to someone when you've established even a minor connection versus when it's a perceived stranger. Hence, back to the social media. That's a reason why. So when you feel like you belong, there is a greater chance that you'll speak your mind. It allows free thinking to flow, which means that dialogue and building upon ideas is possible. How great for a company. The success of a company depends upon the connection and the culture among your employees. Relationships truly are the foundation for which dialogue and brilliant ideas stem from. So let's move on to some interesting things here. I find myself on the cusp of Millennium and Generation X. And so I have a great respect and appreciation for the younger generations that are coming into the workforce, because they are demanding a work environment that meets their lifestyle needs. One that is not only positive and welcoming, but one that gives them purpose and aligns with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs here. Traditionally, leadership within a company has these psychological and safety levels covered, But what are often lacking are the uppermost three levels, and that's belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. When employees bring purpose to their work, they develop stronger relationships. I've said that. They feel that they can make a greater impact, and they are more likely to learn things about themselves. So when an employee feels as though they belong at work, they're far more likely to develop the purpose within their work. Good leaders know that a strong, inclusive company culture is the backbone of a thriving organization. So what about team culture? Team culture, intimate teams, can have just as much, if not more, of an impact, especially in large companies. Because where people tend to identify with their team, they tend to identify with their smaller teams more than they do as a company as a whole, as the bigger picture, because it's the people that are creating things every day. So how do you create an inclusive team culture that complements a company's necessity to grow and ensure that the psychological needs of individual employees are met? Please, I really encourage you to type into the chat too and let us know how you feel about that. How do you help? Your role as a leader is to help your company make money, and yet you are still responsible for that psychological need of your employees to feel comforted and supported. So keep that chat coming. So let's cover some ideas to create culture of belonging, and what exactly does this concept mean? So a sense of belonging is just not the same feeling as feeling similar to everyone else. Our desire to fit in often compels us to hide who we really are, as you saw earlier with my story. Belonging is when you feel safe and valued for embracing what makes you different. By providing an opportunity for colleagues to connect outside of their day-to-day duties, allows them to ignite connection that stems from common interests or from differences that enable meaningful conversations. Meaning, they might have a lot of things in common. They might enjoy making something together, building something together, or they might not see eye to eye. And somebody might say, well, no, I see it doing this way. Well, that's the point. You want them to have activities outside of their strategic work and allow them the creativity, the space to chat with each other and on something completely different. So employers can cultivate these relationships through social wellness programs that bring people together. And as I mentioned, not in a forced fun way. There are activities that you can plan that will resonate with people's lifestyle needs. Now, note that everyone's needs are different. Everyone's problems are different. And we will talk about how to plan a little bit better for that through some activities. So a couple more things to cover here. Sometimes a company's overarching goals are just a little too abstract for an individual contributor. So if you can identify aspects of the company's vision that are most impacted in that person's job function and make it more relatable, it reminds them why their role is so important. In turn, it gives them purpose. So take a little piece and help implement that into their job and let them know how everything that they're doing in their work is so critical to the big picture. So that's an individual manager's role. Next.
I love that you say that. Let me just interrupt, because that's one of the things that I personally see a lot of is the company has the mission. I know I've worked at companies over my lifetime that I don't even really know for sure what they are. And I certainly don't know how I connected, right? It kind of took me growing up in corporate America to really think about, well, what is it? And how am I contributing? And as a leader of a group or a department or just even of a team, how do I help my team see that what they're doing really is contributing to the success of the company? So I think that is one that's a big miss in companies. And I appreciate that it's on your slide, because it does have a huge impact, I think, as, you know, like you say, to have employees really belong or find purpose in what they do every day, rather than just going to a job to get a paycheck.
Exactly. Absolutely. So Another area to look at is giving people, as I mentioned earlier, that opportunity to think creatively about problem solving outside of their everyday work. A couple examples could include, and more recently, a virtual trivia. So there's apps out there that you could buy on your own. FitPros does it, but virtual trivia makes them, makes their minds think about certain things. Or when we're able to go back in person, those escape rooms. I did that with my family, who, story earlier, this is where it came from. We don't see eye on a lot of things, but the escape room was a lot of fun because we had to work together. There was some screaming and maybe some throwing of things. Not by me, of course, but the escape rooms are a lot of fun for teams as well. Moving on, FitPros works with a number of companies that have mentorship programs. And often a non-manager is assigned to a new hire to meet regularly and support the new team member. So the manager has enough on their plate. So you assign someone else on your team that can onboard them, to be there to answer questions in a non-judgmental way and guide them through their first few months. A program like this is really great to have all employees have someone that they feel like they have a buddy, because they came on in the beginning and they were buddied up with somebody. And this relationship will extend. So maybe your program, doing this buddy program, is only a month or 6 months or something, but the relationship is ingrained. Next point here, thanks to COVID, companies have had to get really creative with activities to keep people virtually engaged, such as virtual fitness challenge and, as I mentioned, the wellness trivia. Next point, inclusive team building is so important because not everyone is going to want to do a physical fitness class, and not everyone is going to want to drink at your company happy hours. So you gotta have a little bit of something for everybody. On this next slide, you'll see an activity, and I will ask you to type in the chat and keep those coming. And I'm not able to see the chat box, actually. I don't know where it went. So let me see if I can find that. Okay, perfect. So let's move on to an activity here. Has anybody seen this this activity yet? I really
no, I haven't.
It's a really neat one. It came from MIT, and it's a great way to break down biases and stereotypes by allowing individuals to share about how they identify themselves, while also allowing the team to address the dangerous misconceptions behind these identifying factors. So there's so many stereotypes and assumptions. And so I would absolutely love if you guys will type in the chat box, some misconceptions that that you feel, in this format here. So as you see, I'll read through some that resonate with me. So the game here, the activity here is I am, but I am not. So you name an identifier, and then you say, but, and then the I am not. So I am from Michigan, I'm from the Midwest, and I'm not a NASCAR watching beer drinker. That is an assumption that I've received.
Y'all were. Yeah, I would have put y'all in that bucket.
Right. My husband would not agree with this next one, but I'll say I'm female and I'm not a bad driver. This next one, I'm spiritual, but I am a person. I'm sorry, I am not a person that identifies with just one God. So those are things that are personal and about me. And so please, I encourage you to write in the chat what are some identifiers for you? Some I am, but I am not. A really neat activity, especially right now, to have with a small team environment.
So I added in because it's interesting when I'm in my biker wear, if you will. Mm-hmm. You do get some looks that maybe you're a criminal or you're a really bad person, but I just love riding motorcycles. So I totally get it. Totally get it. I
love that. Oh, I'm learning so much about you. That just seems cool in my mind. So
and I am cool.
That's true. That's true. I love it. I love it. All right. Perfect. So let's move on here and talk about some social engagement. So social engagement in the workplace is a trending term that essentially has replaced team building. So after years of those cheesy rewards and those hokey challenges, the term team building has developed a bad rap. So social engagement has kind of slipped in there, but either one's fine. But when the activities are implemented in a fun and with intention, they allow employees to form a deeper relationship with the company and meaningful connection with their teammates. Below, I'll share some examples of social engagement that FitPros does. But know that if you're on a budget, you can implement these yourself. So I will mention them as examples that FitPros does, but this is not a sales pitch, although we'd love to work with you. So here are some ideas, and take them as you will. So this first picture here was an on-site cooking class. Employees can learn recipes and tips to make meals at home in a cooking class. We actually do cooking classes now virtually as well. So you have your teacher in her home or his home cooking, and then you have your employees in their own comforts of their own home. Kind of fun, because either way you get a meal. So you can enjoy a meal in your workplace with your team or have it with your family virtually. So really neat cooking class there. This next one here, a virtual sketch or a painting social hour, is neat. To be able to mindfully use that creative part of your brain, and then talk to your team about what you drew. Or FitPros facilitates sessions where we have an art expert on, and they'll talk about what the colors mean and why people draw certain ways. And so that's a really neat one. But sketch hours are easy to implement. Next, fitness classes. These are great because they motivate people. They motivate people's personal goals while being held accountable to meet, say, their colleague at class when it's in person or virtual. I will point out, virtual is the most fun when people turn on their cameras. And we certainly don't require people to, but we do recommend turn them on, because it's fun, right? And then also it's fun because we're home and it's a personal environment, and you see the kids running around, and I'm waiting for my cats to jump up here. So those camera on fitness classes are really neat too. Countless studies show that employees who have a bestie at work, and you're able to do that in these social engagement scenarios, people are much more engaged, and they're less likely to leave your company. You spend so much time and money investing on onboarding them. Keep them there. So on the flip, lonely employees are less productive, and they're more likely to quit because they're just not invested. They're not invested in your company or their work. The goal is for employees to feel a sense of belonging to a community, therefore being part of something bigger than themselves. Again, back to that purpose thing. So in summary, when we feel emotionally and socially connected to ourselves and to others, we're not only more productive in our work output, we're more likely to be receptive to the ideas that other people have to contribute. Greater connection to a company and a team equals enhanced productivity, and enhanced productivity equals increased profitability for your company.
I agree 100% on that.
Mm-hmm.
The truth.
Absolutely. Cool. So let's move on. We will move into some case studies. All right. So first we've got this company, Takeoff. Now, Takeoff is an automated grocery fulfillment service, and they purchased 104 FitPros care packages for their employees. These are basically gifts that we deliver to the employee's home, and they're jam-packed with snacks or drinks and activities that we pair with online virtual programs for that social connection. So these are, you can send little gift baskets or gift cards all day long, but what we find is imperative is that additional piece of the social connection. So the HR manager can select the items in the packages, and in Takeoff here, they chose paint sets as one of the items. And also in the box, we create these things. You can see in that picture there, it's the back thing in the picture. We create these things called tip sheets. And so it's a series of papers in a little booklet. And we made a funny. We made it like, we tried to write them with humor, and we made a little funny about Bob Ross. So that's hence the photo here. So employees painted the canvas, some on their own time. Some companies chose to do it on the social hour. And then they connect on a Zoom session to start the conversation amongst a team about how the employees are dealing in their current situation, with the working from home, with their family, and so on, things going on in their life. And you really try to you have something to talk about. So you have the paint session to talk about, but it facilitates other conversations. And if you can chat in the chat box about great ideas and things that you've done or thought about doing for your staff during shelter in place, let's keep the ideas flowing. And I would absolutely love for people to email things that have worked for you and other things that you'd love to see. And I'll share my email with you in just a little bit. So I'm going to give you one more case study here. And one great opportunity leaders can take to breed collaboration and provoke communication is through improv workshops. Again, these can be done virtually and in person. This particular one was in person, and it was on a boat. Hornblower Cruises and Events is a phenomenal company that does dining cruises on the bay, San Francisco Bay. This one in particular was down in Long Beach, and the more people understand how to communicate, the more they'll understand each other on new levels while collaborating. When people connect, communicate, and create together successfully, more innovative ideas do spring up. So FitPros brought this offering to a Hornblower, and they wanted 50 people on their management team to learn how to train their staff to incorporate more kind humor into their job and how to think on their feet with thoughtful responses when talking to their customers. Improv, fantastic way to do that. Because through the playful exercises and the role play, these leaders learned tactics to take back to their teams and had a blast doing it. So the highlights to take away from all of this, when you're planning any team building, first, create a safe space for creativity to flourish. Second, remember the trickle-down effect, that employees will mimic what their leadership instills in the culture. And third, understand there is a high value of having social time. You may think that it's going to cost your company money for the employees to step away, but the payoff will be big. And they encourage conversations outside of their work duties. Having observed this Hornblower workshop myself, I can attest that every employee left pumped up to be an agent of change within their organization. So that leads me to agent of change. Can you type in the chat box what agent of change means to you? To be honest, I had no clue. I did not know what agent of change meant until I read Laura Putnam's book called Workplace Wellness That Works. This is one of those books that someone that's wanting to build culture in your company you'll want a sticky note and highlight nearly every line in the book. I certainly did. Laura shares that the first task to promote well-being and a culture of belonging is to persuade. And the way to do so is to shift the mindset from being an expert to being an agent of change. She says, while experts on a topic inform us and even guide us, it is the agents of change that move us. So here are 4 ways to do that. Number 1, know your why. Behind every great agent of change is a very strong sense of purpose. And I might add to this, if you are aspiring to do anything in life, I highly recommend the Simon Sinek TED Talk, Start With Why, both personally, professionally. Simon Sinek gets you thinking about the why on why you do things. So you can find that TED Talk to understand purpose. Number 2 here, move people on an emotional level to be an agent of change. As every advertiser knows, it is emotions that move people. It's not the facts. One of the best ways that you can appeal to emotions is by telling stories. According to an informal study conducted by a Stanford professor, 5 out of 100 people will likely remember a statistic, whereas 63 out of 100 are likely to remember a story. So I bet you remember my story of being that chubby girl in the pyramid more than you do the stat slide. Unless you took good notes, which is good on you. Number 3, make the business case to be an agent of change. Whether you are asking for budget or asking for a new on-site program to enhance culture and belonging, you gotta collect data to prove the need. Examples include data on presenteeism, safety, mental health, organization performance. Talk to your broker or carriers about the mental health statistics they can feed you. Prove your case. Number 4, button down your elevator pitch. When you're ready to pitch the higher ups, in just 30 seconds, what will convince the powers that be that this is the right thing to do? Being an agent of change means consistently being in the know and advocating for your employees. Being an agent of change yourself and finding others with similar motivations is essential to business growth. So let's talk about how to find those agents of change within your company. The first step to harnessing your internal ambassadors is to identify the agents of change within the organization. And at FitPros, we have a program we call Wellness Warriors. These are not just your occasional fitness friends or the meditation class goers. These are people who are active in your diversity groups, your parenting groups, your book clubs. When these groups work together, the camaraderie for understanding that common foundation, you really see the transformation happen. And these are your agents of change. While each company is going to have its own criteria, there are a couple of key traits that tend to be true across the board with agents of change. So write these down so that you know to look out, and you know how to find these people. So first, it's people who are sharing their thoughts and ideas about how the company can improve. They think about your company and their role even when they're not at work. They come in each day brimming with inspiration to share. They're talking about it. They're an advocate for your company online. So they're reposting the webinars that you're doing. They're reposting how proud they are of your company. These are your agents of change. You find them attending events and they're volunteering on their own time, but representing the company. That's pride. These are your agents of change. They ask questions that are directed at discovering new ways that they could be effective or more helpful. So look out for those people. It's this cohort of employees that are already demonstrating that they're enthusiastic, they're curious, they are engaged. Get them while it's hot. Therefore, the most important thing that you can take advantage of is this positive energy to ensure that it keeps momentum and is pointed in the right direction. And it goes full circle to giving them a greater sense of purpose to belong to something big, everything we've already talked about. So start with doing an employee engagement pulse check. Send a survey out, a Google form, a SurveyMonkey, whatever that might be. If your staff are unmotivated, an ambassador or wellness warrior program is unlikely to take off. According to a Gallup poll, only 32% of US employees are engaged. Yikes. Hopefully that's not the case at your company. Or if it is, finding these agents of change is critical to start boosting morale. I'd love to tell you more about the Wellness Warrior program, so just send me an email if you'd like to learn more. So we're going to jump into another activity here. And one of the most popular FitPros offerings are what we call health talks. This is when a credentialed speaker presents their expertise on a specific area. Typically, these are an hour for us, and they're engaging with a company, both virtually and in person. Our speakers are required to perform interactive exercises to get people talking to each other and engage on the topic. So this activity that I particularly like is on the topic of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it's called Defining Moments. And you'll see on this slide specifically how to do the exercise. So I'd love for you to either pull out a piece of paper or chat about defining moments for you. So what we do is everyone writes down, we could just do one for right now, but you have your employees write down 3 defining moments in their life. And then in the workplace, it's fun. You can have them write it on Post-its and then stick them up on the wall so everybody can kind of see the wall painted with these Post-its. Really neat. There's obviously ways to do that in virtual settings as well. So then you have the employees share the story to whatever degree they feel comfortable, but they can talk about that defining moment that meant so much to them personally, whether it was they were treated in a not positive way or a positive way. So whatever that means for someone, those are defining moments in their life. And so that's where their heart is saying, like, I want to share this. Obviously, this activity can only be done if you've taken the critical steps to create a welcoming, positive culture where they feel safe, that safe environment to share these stories. So there's many steps leading up to doing activities like this. The speaker will do their work in creating this safe place for employees to share their backgrounds and what's been vital in shaping their lives. This allows the group to learn new things about each other, and the act of being open and vulnerable is such a great way to form bonds, increase empathy, and improve relationships. So we're wrapping up here. In closing, true leadership identifies the unified action of leaders and staff working together to jointly achieve mutual goals. It is a collaborative effort. Without truly caring for and understanding their people, leaders cannot lead effectively. At FitPros, we define leadership as inspiring people with aligned values while planning for the future through collaboration of concepts and actions to achieve a community goal. That's a mouthful. To simplify, an effective leader must be able to build relationships to create that safe community. To do so, the leader must be open-hearted, and by taking that extra step to know their people's values and motivations. There's another book that I like called The Leadership Challenge. And the authors say, I'll quote this, when leadership is a relationship founded on trust and confidence, people take risks. They make changes, keep organizations and movements alive. Through that relationship, leaders turn their constituents into leaders themselves. Bold, but true. So express your genuine interest in how people are. Ask them. And ask them what they love most about being at your company. You will build strong, meaningful relationships by asking. When people have these strong relationships with the leadership team, they're more likely to be your brand advocates, your agents of change, your wellness warriors. Another fringe benefit is that this also has a positive impact on internal culture, which in turn may inspire other potential brand ambassadors to take up the torch, to step up, it just spreads, it spreads. You are all leaving this session armed with tools to be agents of change yourself within your company. But total employee well-being runs deep, and it's complicated, it's very vast. And that's where FitPros would absolutely love to come in. And I'm going to put up my thank you slide here and then hand it back. So to learn about FitPros wellness services or to continue this conversation, I'm so passionate about it. And obviously I couldn't dive deep into so many amazing topics that are dear to my heart. Please, please, please email me at Lindsay@FitPros. Our website is fitpros.com. And I do want to invite everyone, we have a free session on June 30th at 10 a.m. called The Road to Allyship. And it's a panel of experts that on diversity, equity, inclusion. So obviously really facing, hard hitting the topics that we're all deep into today. So please send me a note and I can send you an invitation for that, or follow us on social media and you'll see it come up. So thank you very much.
Awesome, Lindsay. Thank you so much. And it's certainly been a great topic for today's environment. That's for sure. It gives us all something to think about. As you've been talking, I've been thinking, oh my gosh, what can I do? You know, how can I be this agent of change for Turnkey and some of the other folks that I work with? Because what I see a lot of is the opposite. And especially now when people aren't together, I know for me, I feel excluded, not because I am, but because I am, because I'm over here and they're over there, right? So it's really, really important to bring people together, and I do appreciate what you've said. So thank you so much for your lovely presentation. All right, just a couple of last slides, you guys. Again, I just want to remind you that Lindsay is available. She shared her information. Certainly reach out to her. At Turnkey, again, we have a career transition outplacement service. I know it might be a difficult time for everybody. This is never fun, but if you do it right, it helps save your brand. It also, more importantly, helps people feel like they are worth something to you, which I think matters a bunch. And then finally, just our contact information. If you need anything from Turnkey Consulting, we are here to help and would love to be of service anytime. So thank you very much again for everything, Lindsay. We have appreciated it. And for those of you in attendance, this webinar will be up in about 48 hours. So you can certainly share it, replay it, get all of Lindsay's great tips. And we will close with that. And I hope you all enjoy your day. Thanks again.